Hi everyone, good evening. I'm Sagara from Centro Upaya, and I'm really delighted to introduce a new friend. Do you know it's one of those new friends that is an old friend? There are people that we know very recently, and there's a quality of connection and ease that feels like an old friend. So Sahar, for me, I'm even learning to say her name. I've said it a few times. I'm never quite sure if the pronunciation is there. But we met through another friend, and immediately we kind of, for me at least, I connected, had a really good feeling, and really wanted to have her here at Centro doing her work. And her work is as a registered psychotherapist and also a mindfulness teacher. And that allows her to provide both individual and couples therapies. And she does lead workshops for personal development and has a clinic in Lisbon. And I hope to have her here as well at Centro. Who knows if we can get her room, a nice room for her here at Centro. And we're going to do this in a sort of questions and answers. I have a few questions that I want to ask her, but I think we're open. At the end, we'll have opened the field for the participants' questions as well. So, Sahar, the floor is yours, so to speak. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for having me here. And thank you all for coming. It is a delight to be here and to see you and to feel also your interest in this topic, which is a topic that is very much alive in my heart for many years. And I hope it will be an interesting and opening uh, evening together, and that it will be opening some new ideas or maybe new feelings even. Um, yeah. So thank you first for coming, and also thank you for being with your camera open because we are going to talk about connection and attachment and yeah, and I need to be attached and my need to see and to connect, even though it will be kind of questions from Sagara, but I will also love to hear your questions. So during this time, if you have questions, I will be very happy if you can write it down for yourself. Maybe not in the chat, just because it takes our attention, and we will leave time for it. And if you see that we're really going too far and we forgot your question, like don't forget to say it again. Um, yeah, I kind of wish maybe first to hear, maybe in the chat, it will be a nice format to do it. Why did you came tonight, this evening? What got you here? You want to share? Maybe in a sentence or a few words in the chat? What brought you to make this evening available and to join us? Curiosity, personal development, reconnecting, to learn something new, personal development, and curiosity to meet you and your work. Thank you, Anna. Anyone else? It's great to connect with you like that. Curiosity. I love curiosity. That's what brought me here. Connecting. Connection. Thank you, Alexandra. Right. So maybe I will just start and say something that it's always good to say when we are reaching such a huge topic, is that part of my work is integrative work, which means I'm combining different modalities and different ways and different theory, and from the East, from the West, from the Buddhist to our psychology. And it's really big, like every area, every modality is really, really big. It takes years to go deep into it. It takes years of seeing it every time from different perspective. Um, if it's the mindfulness in the Buddhist, or if the psychology and understanding ourselves better through that lens. So every time when I try to give something which is kind of not at least half a day or a full weekend or a full course, I'm always having this disclaimer, because time is limited, but those topics are really big, and they can take us to a beautiful exploration. Um, but it also can be, I don't like to simplify, but sometimes I will simplify a little bit just so we can have the idea and we can stay together in those concepts, which are big and vast. So yeah, Sagara, I'm here. I give you the mic.
I was noticing I'm slightly torn between, I have some sort of interesting questions, but more here for ideas. And I'm torn to also, because I don't know so much, it's how did you end up going from mindfulness teacher to psychotherapist and maybe even in Portugal? Would that be okay? Would you tell us a little bit of
Yes,
that
of
journey?
course. Of course, of course. So I first started to practice when I was very young. It was about age 23, and it wasn't coming from curiosity at all. I didn't come from curiosity because I came from really from suffering. I really tried to find something that will bring me some relief, some ease, some comfort. And I feel it's important to put this motivation. I wasn't searching for enlightenment, or I really didn't have those spiritual wishes. And after something like almost 7 years of practice, but really in my time there was no mindfulness courses. There was really, if you want to practice, you have to go for retreats. So I set a lot of retreats, a lot of retreats and courses, and I really dedicated my years for it. And in some point, even though my devotion was really big and I was really all in some point something got really stuck for me. And I couldn't really understand why, or how does it work, but something didn't feel like I'm releasing, let's say, from more suffering. Something was quite stable and steady about it. And I had some frustration, and I was taking my very dear teacher's instructions, but something kind of stopped developing. And I think this is the point where when I reach some kind of a ceiling, a glass ceiling of my own practice, because I was trying actually to grow and to develop and to release from suffering in the way that in a path that cannot give. I don't think any path, by the way, can give us everything. Yeah. And so I had a hammer, so everything I saw, I thought it's a nail. Do you know this? This everything that you find, you think it's a nail. But for me, in some point, it really got stuck, and I was continuing trying. But in some moment, because my mindfulness practice was deep and my embodiment was deep, when I went to my body, I felt this high level of tension, really high, that no matter what I change, it didn't change. I changed my lifestyle. Really, I changed a lot. It didn't change. And also, of course, a lot of practice. And something in my intuition said that I need to search for something else. And then I listened to a conversation, an interview with someone really, really that I love and really admire. And her talk called from trauma to dharma. And in that talk, she's really in one evening, she opened up everything for me. And you can now imagine some snowball rolling downhill. And I really went and studied psychotherapy and trauma work. And I understood that a lot of this stuckness was not fitting. The answer or the relief cannot be found in my spiritual path anymore.
Hmm.
And so I had to go and to find where I can flourish and where can be the place that I will feel that I'm more going and fulfilling my full potential. And that was including some retreating from the path and going to another path.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, that was my journey, and it took me up to here. This is almost 10 years after.
Wow. Yeah, I resonate with that. I had something of that journey in my own path. And I'm guessing that one of the areas where you felt the stuckness had to do with relationships, given then the area of psychotherapy that you've also chosen. Would you tell us something of, these primary attachments that we learn early in life and how that ends up influencing relationships throughout life, throughout our adult life? If that was clear.
Yeah, sure. I want to say that I didn't understand it's about relationship. I didn't understand that. I got yeah, I didn't really get it, I think. I just felt some stuckness and I felt some tension and I felt that my practices and developing of qualities and devotion just really didn't take me to where I was
Mm.
wanting to go. And I did also start to teach, and that was, and I still left teaching mindfulness practice. But it also was slowly, slowly, more and more in the serve of understanding ourselves, understanding myself better, and taking mindfulness not just for a meditation and regulation tool and skills, which are super important, but also as understanding better what's happening inside. And attachment, I do want to say, it can go to all kinds of direction. Attachment is a theory, a psychological development theory, but also the Buddha is talking about attachment. And
Hmm.
I want to say this can be interesting, but I want to try to say one thing about the psychological can be clear about that. It's talking about our early experiences in life, especially in our childhood, especially in our 2 years, like up to two. Some researcher will say three, and that in that time we can imagine that we were being in our first school of bonding. And this first school of bonding, it's the place where we learn from experience, learn from our body, learn from what we've been feeling or what we didn't feel, learn from the connection between our caregivers. It can be for many of us is our parents, but it can also be another caregiver that take really close care of us, and they are attachment figure. And from there, we are learning many, many things, not just about connection, because we are mammals. We're learning a lot of things, not only about the other, but also about ourselves. Also about, am I a burden? Am I valid? Does my need are important or not important? Yeah. Is the world is a safe place? Those questions being answered through experiencing in our attachment. This is how we kind of get the first lens of what is it to be a human in connection and in the world. And this is a very early conditioning, which because it's so early, we don't see it, we always see through it. It's a very, very delicate, but it's strong in its impact. And we can bring the Buddha here to say that the Buddha didn't want to teach after his awakening. He didn't want to teach. And he wanted to, and and he was saying, okay, I will only teach the one that have little dust in their eyes. And I feel that attachment is so much deep in us that it's also very hard to see many times. And so the mindfulness practice as I use it today with the service of our psychological development and less of the spiritual is to understand better our attachment. Why? Because it's affecting tremendously on our relationship. And we can sometimes sit a lot for meditation and retreat from our life and go and devote ourselves. But then, the quotes of Jack Hornfield, if you think you're enlightened, go and live with your parents for 1 week. So, I see the smile, so I know you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes we're trying with a hammer, and then we still have the dynamics and not feeling seen or not feeling loved as we need or not feeling supported as we need. It's very much connected also to our relationship, but to our also attachment and how we are conditioning in a very early stage of our life.
And I'm guessing you were saying it has to do with others, but we're also learning about ourselves. And I'm wondering that whole area of being compassionate towards oneself and how that sometimes is quite inaccessible to some of us. And where did that one come from? How did one learn not to be worthy of compassion? I'm really curious about that.
Yeah. I remember the first one of the first times that I met the metta practice, it was really difficult for me. It was really difficult for me, metta or loving present or compassion. It was really difficult. It was a bit weird. It's kind of like, okay, I will try. Anyone knows here this experience of trying to work with compassion? Yeah, I know this experience and something kind of blocking, not familiar, or also bringing a lot of pain, one of the two. And one of the interesting things today is that there is some people or researchers that are doing and then trying to understand the correlation between people with securely attachment and people that are having more ease developing self-compassion. It's more natural for them, and we can see some correlation there. Yeah, and why? Because we are internalizing how we've been treated. So if we treated in a way that had softness and compassion and being with our pain, not minimizing it, but not also exaggerating it, soothing us, regulating us. So it's very natural that we will know how to do it very, very simply, actually. Yeah, and our nervous system can go back to regulation much faster compared to a situation which we didn't had it. And so then in adolescence, we're trying when we are grown-ups, we're trying to develop it because we know it's important. We feel it's important. It's not easy to have all of these voices in a way of parts that have some critique about ourselves inside all the time when we are not feeling well or when we are not having the success that we wish to have or we are making a mistake. So there is a very interesting correlation between
Hmm.
how we are toward ourselves and our attachment conditioning.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And how these patterns keep repeating themselves towards ourselves and I guess in our relationships. So throughout life, these difficulties in relationship, especially with our closest ones, tend to repeat themselves. They keep coming back. Is that the early conditioning kind of unfolding forwards?
I think it's more complicated than this,
Yeah, I would imagine.
but because always when we're in relationship, there are like two systems that meets together. But let's imagine that we we have the hardware, let's call it like that, like a hardware of attachment. We are all wired for connection. Yeah. We're all wired not just for connection, but for safe connection. And then on top of it, because of the experiences that we had or didn't have, or the environment, or yeah, we have kind of a software. And in that software, we have expectations and beliefs and memories that are creating a lot of our perception about what is possible in relationship and also who we are and what we can have or cannot have. And on top of it, there is the story, either how we feel in relationship or how we are explaining to ourselves what is happening. And then when we meet another person, these two are meeting. This is why it's more complicated. Um, but I want to say that attachment is mostly about our ability to be in the independency. And this is something that most of us in our culture learn to try to avoid and have some, I don't want to say denial, but really want to push it away because also culturally we're really in a it's much being more admired to be very self-sufficient and to anyone is resonating with this aloneness of just living, carry ourselves, and to have a lot of aloneness or sometimes even loneliness because of it. And this is a big contradictory compared to my Buddhist practice, as you can all imagine.
Yeah, that's a good segue because, Buddhism is, well, it's quite strongly speaks about liberation through freedom from attachment. And there you go, you've become an expert on the theory of attachment and practice. How do you bridge that, these two seemingly opposing understandings?
I don't think they're really in any contradiction, really. I think this is like two paths that are different. One is more the spiritual and the ultimate, and one is the relational. And sometimes when we're trying to go in one path and find some answers to another path, we get confused. But actually, um, when we are becoming and when we have a safe bond, it's much more natural for us to go out to the world and explore it and also explore spirituality. But it's also very different if we're going to explore spirituality from a place that we feel deep, deep loneliness or we are facing a lot of difficulties, emotional difficulties. So for me, it's not really a contradictory as much as it actually two paths, but sometimes it's hard kind of to know, okay, what is it? Is it a nail? Do I need to use this hammer or another hammer to work with this thing that we're meeting or facing? Yeah, and I think the cue for this question will be feeling what is driving us there. What is driving us there?
Do you want to say just a little bit more? What do you mean?
I can say now that I did, but I didn't know it before, that what drove me to the spiritual path was a lot of suffering, that a lot of it was psychological suffering and emotional suffering.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
I didn't find answers in usual psychology. I actually find a lot of disappointment and stuckness. And maybe some of you also know this feeling that it doesn't develop to where I want to go and it doesn't change. And it's a lot also in the head. But starting working with the body really, really change everything. Start working with my nervous system, change everything. Start
Mhm.
working with attachment theory, change a lot.
So I'm guessing this changed the way you teach mindfulness. I'm guessing because you have quite a unique approach to mindfulness based on secure attachment principles. How does that differ from the let's say Buddhist or secular mindfulness practice? The way
So I
you teach?
teach and I still
Yeah.
love, yeah. So I teach and I still very much love to teach mindfulness in the form of MBSR, mindfulness. Something happened to my brain. Mindfulness-based stress reduction and also MBCT, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. But the goals there are very different. Yeah. And when I use today mindfulness is much more to imagine that we have like an iceberg, a big iceberg, and what we're seeing is the tip of it. And this is what we are aware of. And this is where we have how we organize our experience, how we create our story of our life, and the things that we are also aware of. But there is also a big iceberg, actually much bigger many times underneath the water. And so mindfulness in psychotherapy is actually a really, really deep tool to go very gently into this iceberg underneath the water so we can understand better what are the core beliefs that we have there, what of the beliefs that are good and healthy for us, what of the beliefs are limiting for us, and so on and so on. We can also find our attachment conditioning over there. So attachment in the way I'm working today is much more as an investigation tool, going deep to our more subconscious, and less less as just the very profound regulation skills or awareness skills, which are really, really important also for this work. Oh, you are on mute.
I'm sorry. From what you're saying, I'm sensing that this, I don't know what, meditative awareness, this mindfulness that has brings in that knowledge of attachment. You're saying it is actually a tool for changing attachment patterns?
Yes, I don't think it can be the only tool, but it can start to expose for us what is happening
Hmm.
and that we are feeling it and many times operating by it and seeing through the lens of it, but we're not aware of it. And there is a sentence that phrases it nicely and says, "You cannot change what you don't know how you do it."
Ah, totally. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm thinking a bit, let's say we will be doing a workshop soon. And at the workshop, I imagine part of the way the work is identifying the patterns, yeah? Because I'm guessing you need
Yes.
to first know that they're here.
Yeah, before we can do any change, we want to see what is it in our software? What is it?
Uh-huh.
What is arising in our inner world related to those topics? Yes.
So I'm guessing we get kind of a map and identify,
Yes.
okay, I recognize that pattern kind of thing. Okay. And then the practice is a way of navigating that territory and bringing about change.
Yeah.
Ah,
I want to say about change that I will say another thing before, and then I will go for it. One of the things that we're also going to do in the workshop is having some experience in attachment meditation. Attachment meditation is meditation that is the person that actually developed it is Professor Daniel Brown, which was a very big and admired researcher, psychologist that did a lot of attachment work in his career. And he also was a Tibetan Buddhist teacher. So he combined his knowledge into two and actually develop meditations that are trying to give us the missing experience according to our inner map, according to our attachment style.
mhm,
And in this work, we are actually using our our embodiment skills and our capacity to be in the body, but also our imagination to go and to create some new experience here and now that can be felt in our body of how it was supposed to be feeling. How is it to feel attached in a safe way, in a nurturing way? So that is, from my experience, and also many people that practice it, it's really going and giving us something that we all really need and sometimes really long for, and we can work with it and start to embody it with the help of the meditation. I cannot say though, and this is a big disclaimer, that we can have healing just from this. Yeah, it will be too simple, yeah. But it can give us kind of the direction of what we're searching for. When we're talking about being attached, being connected, what is it that we're searching for? It's not only pleasant experiences, it's also the experiences when we are in pain. What do we expect? Many of us, when we are in pain, we're expecting what I want to open it for everyone here. What do we expect when we are in pain? Like, do we have expectation when we are in pain? Or we kind of have expectation, but then we drop them. Or we have a lot of expectation and they're never being met. How is it for you? You can write it in the chat. Yeah. Yeah. Tend to want to be left alone, loving present, relief, relief. The one that says relief, can you say more? Is it relief from not being alone or relief of being alone? I'm not so sure. Tend to go distract myself. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is really important because our relief from the pain. Great, Angela, thank you. Tend to minimize it. Wish, thank you. Yeah, yeah. So really what we learned in our first school of bonding, it's what we will do with our pain. Do we search to find help? Not help as a professional help necessarily, but just help when we are in pain? Or do we go and distract ourselves with something else? Or do we tend to try to stay alone? Or maybe we do come for the connection that we have and we don't feel the relief. This is all connected to attachment and to our attachment conditioning many times, not only, but a lot. Present and good listening, peace. Thank you. The thing is that um, it's a very big and important question about our pain, because when we are in pain, what is actually happening for all of us is that the attachment system, the very natural system, is starting to get activated, and we are seeking for some relief from in connection. But if we didn't get it, we kind of learn to do something else about it. Does that make sense to you? Make sense? Yeah. But the thing is that vulnerability and our capacity to be vulnerable, it's what creates good bond. So this is kind of tough for many of us. Yeah. Because we want to feel safe, but to be vulnerable and to stay with our pain, it's really, really scary for us. Because maybe we left alone, maybe we got critiqued, maybe we got ashamed, maybe we felt something that was really, really scary. So we learn how to disconnect also from our vulnerability. But vulnerability is really the key for getting attached. But first, we need to be vulnerable with ourselves. This is where practice is really, really important, to be intimate with ourselves. Does that make sense to you guys? Yeah?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, totally. And I was curious about that because now that no, the methodology using meditation is very much a thing on one's own. But attachment theory is all about what relationship also with other and feeling secure and being at ease in one's vulnerability in relationship with others. I'm guessing, but I don't know anything about it. So this work, is it all on one's own or does it involve, I don't know, practice with other? I'm not quite sure how to put it.
Yeah, it's a good question. I feel that when we are creating more safety inside of ourselves, and it's what is it to feel safe inside of myself? It's kind of creating and developing good environment inside and good understanding. A lot of our stress is not just because our pain, it's because how we are treating ourselves when we have this pain. What is it that we think about ourselves when we are having this pain or sadness or anger or grief? So a lot of the work is creating and really inviting ourselves to be much more gentle with ourselves and creating more safe bond. It goes very deep because for many of us, we learn to disconnect from emotions because it was so scary. But if we can connect to our emotions, this will from a vulnerable place. That will be also the place that we can connect to others in a new way. So it always starts with ourselves, with attaching well to ourselves, yeah, and not disconnecting from ourselves. And from that connection, we can go and connect with others, and this connection with others will create more connection to ourselves. And can you see it? It just will be like infinity of connection. And this is how we are as human. We need the other to resonate to us.
Yeah, makes sense. Definitely makes sense. I'm looking at the time and
Time flies.
time flies. And I'm here. The Buddhist within is having a few questions.
Go for it. I'm curious.
And I'm thinking of a few, not necessarily Buddhist, but also Neo-Advaita traditions that have a strong emphasis on non-attachment, on letting go, and even I would say, my experience, quite a critical look uh, as far as relationships go and how they can actually be an impediment to enlightenment, so on and so forth. How do you? I mean, how do you square that circle?
I want to say that even when we are, I want to say that when we are receiving teaching, we are receiving it from someone else, human consciousness. And this consciousness is also conditioned. Even when we're trying to look to places which are less or not, it's also conditioned. So it's hard for me to yeah, to detach from that because we're sharing knowledge and we are sharing our views, and sometimes it can get a bit entangled together. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
I don't think I followed.
Hmm. So I want to say that it's many times, I will say differently, many times I thought what kind of attachment style had the Buddha had.
Hmm.
Yeah, what kind of attachment style he had. Yeah, with his tendencies. Yeah, to for in the kind of house, a castle that he grew up with, his kind of father. I really had those thoughts. What kind of a home, uh, emotionally, yeah, he grew up in. And what I'm trying to say about that is the Buddha wasn't a Buddhist. The Buddha was a human being wanting to get relief from suffering and went to a very dedicated journey for 6 years of his life to find the answer. Yeah. But I want to say that through it, he also left home and left his close people, his attachment people, yeah, attachment figures. And through the years, I thought, wow, it needs to be really also detaching. Like really, I was feeling some pain when I was thinking about this story, about this sutra. Yeah, because kind of yeah, I don't want to leave my loved ones behind to get awakened. I want to get awakened with them inside the relationship, not to, abandon them and then to. I feel some gap that it's hard for me to contain. My heart is feeling. It's hard for me to feel okay about it. It doesn't feel right to me, but it's me.
Okay,
I hope
I
it's
have a
more
little
clear.
angle on that one. I was surprised to practice Buddhism in Asia. I'm thinking of Burma and Nepal. And to practice Buddhism within a society that hasn't yet been highly affected by capitalism and consumerism, where people don't have this crazy idea that if they have this, this, and that, they'll be happy. These are places where people know they won't have. So happiness is not dependent on having things. Happiness is dependent on, well, being a nice human being with other human beings. Like I remember with our gardener in Nepal, the first time we met and said, "Oh, sir, we have a few things to buy. Let's go together." I said, "Okay, let's go, let's go." And as soon as we walk out of the house, he holds my hand. And I thought, "Oh, this is interesting. This is a different way of going about life." And there we go, walking down the street, holding hands.
That's so
And
sweet.
I thought, and it was so natural for him. And I thought, this is really strange. Men here, they sit on each other's lap, and it's got nothing to do with being gay or not. It just, they seem very at ease with intimacy in that society, at least between men, and I saw that between women. And then I did a retreat, and that in Burma, really strict retreat with the Upaya what's it? Upaya? Now I can't remember his name, but one of those very strict Burmese teachers, full silence. And to my surprise, within the shrine room, most sits, as soon as the sit would finish, people would start chatting to each other. They couldn't stop connecting with each other. They had always to hold someone's hand, have a little chat. And I thought, well, I get that their conditioning is they need to know who am I without being so entangled with others. And I can see the point in that society. No, you need to go on retreat on your own in silence and get a sense of what you are when you're not so entangled. But I don't think most Westerners need a lot of that. I think most Westerners do need to sit on each other's lap, hold hands, and so I'm guessing the conditioning that the Buddha was dealing with 2,500 years in that society, that medicine is a very different medicine for us 2,500 years and an industrial revolution and digital revolution and all of that. So that's my angle on that one, if that made sense. So
Yes.
I think it'd be probably a good thing to open to other people's questions. I have more, but it might be nice to hear from other people. Yeah, so
Please do.
please unsilence yourselves if you feel like it, or do you want it on the chat? Sahar, what do you prefer?
I prefer to connect actually by if you can open your mic, it will be great also to hear your voice. And
Hi, Sahar.
hello, Daniel.
So what's your attachment style?
You're asking me?
Yes, yes.
I'm not sure. I will answer it. I'm not sure because many times when I did those questionnaires, you know, these questionnaires online that you can do, you have all kind of sites that gives you a lot of questions, and then they give you the 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 place where you start to feel really bad about yourself. This is like, okay, this is your attachment style. So I did those many years ago, and I kind of like, okay, let's maybe explain a few things. But actually, I want to say something else and to say seriously that our style is a condition and conditioning, but it can change. It's not easy to change it, but it can change. And it needs to change through, and this is also replying to you, Sagara, about healing. It needs to change through experience. It cannot change by reading books. It cannot change by thinking. It cannot change by those cognitive ways of that we many times get stuck in. And it needs to change by new experiences. So it doesn't matter what attachment style we have. What matters is that in relationship, if we're finding ourselves struggling, if we're finding ourselves in difficulty, or if we feel alone, even though we have a good supportive partner, we should check this, okay, to see and to understand better what is it that makes me feel not so secure here, not so safe here. Okay, because what happened is that many times we have this experience and then we switching relationship. Do you know this? Do you know this? Okay, it doesn't work with him. I will try. But then we have the same difficulty, just in a different, character. We have the same dynamic or the same difficulty. So what I want to say, and this is something really that I bring also in my workshop and teaching that, okay, it's very important to understand our inner working model and our attachment style, but to hold it very lightly. Because what is important is to create change and to have new experiences. It can be new experiences in therapy. It can be new experiences in relationship, in couple therapy, because many times we need some help to do something different. But what I really want to emphasize is not about having another label or pathologizing ourselves, which is really easy to do and very much not compassion, but to increase awareness with the tools and the knowledge, and mostly to have new experiences so we can feel more secure in relationship. We deserve to feel more secure, because when we feel more secure, we start to flourish. Instead of surviving, we go through thriving. So that was a very long answer for a short question.
Is it connected to our childhood as well? Or do we need to understand our childhood to understand the type of attachment do we have?
No, not really. Not really. What is important is that our body have all the answers, and it doesn't really matter. I work very little with the story or the memories. It's not needed because the print is in our body and in our nervous system. It doesn't matter because something can be small from the outside, like a memory can be not meaningful from the outside, but for us it was huge as
Mhm.
kids. So what is important is our experience, not so much the story. It's okay even if we don't have memories. I don't have memories so much from early childhood.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
So
for the question.
I don't know if anyone wants to ask anything else about. So do you reckon with like this case, like with communication, with self-awareness, um, we can change our like attachment styles and
I think
healing as well? I'm not sure.
I think what changes experience, consistent new experiences of feeling safe in connection, and when we don't feel safe, to understand what does it that doesn't make us feel safe. It needs to be very
But like
consistent.
in a way of reflecting ourselves in the other person, or like reflection
It
of
can,
ourselves or actions or
it can
in the other
be.
person, or
It can be, but sometimes, and I don't say it as a critique, I just say it from my experience, also of my own life experience, and also as my clinical experience, we're getting stuck in the head and we're thinking it's awareness.
yeah,
Sometimes we
turning
need
into
some help there to see what's actually going on. Because
yeah,
we have a very strong brain, to all of us, really strong, and it have its own story. We want to go beyond this, beyond our story. I see the smile, so I know you know it. Huh? I see, I see some smiles of identifying with this feeling. Yeah, we all have it.
yeah. Thank you, Sahar.
Thank you, Danielle. Anyone else?
I have a question, Sahar.
Angela.
Uh, Unfortunately, we won't be able to be at the workshop. Um, but I wanted to understand, how do you usually work with couples in this attachment topic? Because Vasco just left, he had a call, but we keep talking about our own patterns. We've done other workshops at Upaya that were super helpful. We both do our work individually. And when it comes to couple therapy, I tend to think that there's a lot of responsibility involved, because you can enter in a path that it can connect you, but if it can also breaks you in a way. And it's something that we tend to believe, or we tend to feel that it could be useful in helping us navigate through our own patterns in relationship, because it's a different thing to work on it individually and then to work on it together. Um, but I don't know how to do it. So I really wanted to understand how you usually do it, and what type of path do you follow with couples that seek for your support.
Thank you. It's a brave question, really brave. And I want to say many of us have those struggles. And this seeking for something else, it's really it's special, because it's easy to just, not to take care of it. but love is important, so we want to take care of it. How I work, so one of my roots is a COMI psychotherapy, which is a mindful somatic psychotherapy, which is basing a lot of the attention in the present moment. And I think this is what gives us hope, that we are not losing, but when we are taking the attention out from our story, also about the other, and bringing it back to what is happening. And what is happening is usually some activation in our nervous system, in our body, and then it's also activating our mind in specific pathways. And we want to become aware of that. That's the first thing. And second, we want to understand exactly what is it that scares us. We all have deep fears about love. And those deep fears are many times a bit subconscious, a bit not aware, but they're activating. And to be attached is to lose a bit of control. And it's really scary. Actually, it's to stop being alone in a way, and it's to let go of our hands. But many of us, we want first a full security and then only, but it doesn't work like that. So I'm there to help in finding enough security to let go and to see what happened and really to hold and embrace it in a safe way. And you said something really nice, and I want to refer it, is that we do our individual work when we are in relationship. Also, it's the way I'm working with couples. But when we do our inner work with our partner present, it's really strong, in a good way of strong. We have a witness for our healing. We have someone there that is seeing us going and overcoming also our fears. And then we are witnessing the other. And this is really strong because it's also bonding us to see one another and to be this companion to one another. This is our Sangha for our development. And then we're doing the work between us. So it's always within and then between. And this is really like a system, like an ecosystem that is nourishing. So this is my answer for your brave question.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Cool. Anyone else? Susanna?
Yes. So first of all, thank you so much for what you have shared with us. I'm really looking forward to meet you. And I'm curious, how do you work with the body, since there is this, in a way, spiritual work and at the same time attachment work. So how the body finds its own place here? I'm curious about.
Wow, it's a great question. Wow. So in our body, there is a lot of answers for many of our past experiences and memories. And the body is talking all the time, and the body is the one that remember our experiences. And so what I offer is mindful awareness to our body. It's not only to our breath and to the feeling of grounding and so and so. It's more. It's also for the impulses that is coming. It's also to our energy that suddenly drop or go up. It's also to it's also to our feelings, like where is our feelings? Our feelings are in the body. Feelings are like waves in the body, especially when there are core feelings, emotions, core emotions that are going through the body. We can feel it as a wave. And all of that is happening in our cells, in our nervous system, in our muscles, in our level of energy. And so for me, it's even, I cannot imagine doing all of this healing work without body, because the body is the one that learned how to get attached since we were little infant in our mom's womb. And this is also how we get new experiences from being in the body, from having new experiences in ourselves. Attachment is something we need to feel. One of the attachment components is that when I'm in pain, I want to feel the other feel me. We want to feel this resonance. We want to feel this connection. Also, when we're very happy, we want to feel this, right? We want to feel this. This is what makes us feel really good together. And we're feeling each other. We're being felt. A lot of our loneliness, and I think this is the biggest trauma for many, many of us, is not what happened in the past, is that we were very much alone in there and also after. And that loneliness is really, really, really a painful place. And so for me, attachment in many ways is undoing this aloneness. This is a place of healing, as I see it. Undoing aloneness. Not agreeing for this. It can be cultural, but it can also be other, like, perception of that we should just manage our life with this pain of loneliness and aloneness. Because we really thrive when we have this togetherness, compared to survive when we don't. So thank you for the question of the body. Looking forward to meet you too.
And on that note of meeting you, and bearing in mind the time, I'd like to remind everyone that we will have a workshop with Sahar here at Centro Upaya. You can find the information on our website and do the registration there. So it will be on the 16th of March. 16th of March, 10 o'clock in the morning. It's a Sunday, and I'm very lazy on Sunday, so I asked, can we start at 10? So it's just me. For Sunday, it's a good time, I reckon. So we started on Sunday, the 16th of March at 10 o'clock, and it's a 4-hour workshop with Sahar, which, I mean, from what we heard so far, it sounds really promising. I'll be there. I'm definitely going to be there, and I hope to see all of you there as well, if you can make it. Anything else that we need to tell people, Sahar, that you'd like
Oh
to?
yeah, we really would like to one last thing is that the early bird registration fee that is cheaper than the full price. It will be available until tomorrow midnight. And after that, the price will be the usual. So if you do feel the calling of coming, and if you see that you're available, I think it would be good to check the information today and to join us. So that's the little thing about it.
Well, thank you for reminding us of that. Thank you. Okay.
Good. I kind of want to offer, before we just disappear to our life and to dinner and everything, if you would like to share, like maybe in the chat, something about how you are right now, or how you feel about this topic, or any thought or insight or something. I would really love to connect and feel how was that for you. Wow. Thank you for what you're writing. I will read it. Inspired, very interesting, and super grateful. Less lonely, curious. Thank you for the inspiration. Sad that we don't be able to attend, but we'll definitely get in touch. Sure. I'm here. Curious. Glimpse already. Okay. Interesting. Some ideas can. Great. Good. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for having me here, Fagala. It was a pleasure.
A
And
pleasure. Lovely. And really
lovely to
look
meet in
forward.
this. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Have a
Thanks
good
lot.
evening and see you in the
All the best.
workshop.